Hi winners! Welcome back to another episode of Win a Pageant. I'm your host, Alycia Darby. And in today's episode, I'm going to teach you the top 10 questions that I recommend that you ask before you even decide to compete in a pageant. Now, this is if you know that you want to compete in some type of pageant, but you're not sure which one, or there are several to choose from. Here are the questions that you can ask. First of all, you should know that there are many questions you need to ask yourself, like do you have the time? Are you really interested in putting in the effort and the energy and the finances toward this effort? Is it really a priority for you? And a host of other things, but in this episode, we're going to specifically talk about the questions that I want you to ask others. The first few questions are specific to asking the director. So the first question that I think that you ought to ask your director is this. What made the last title holder successful? By getting an answer from the director as to what made the last title holder, the former title holder, successful, you get an idea of what the director views as important. So they may share things like, oh, well, she was really a hard worker. Or they may say, she was readily available anytime that we needed her. They may also, so those are like characteristics, those are things that you can sort of develop or pay attention to. They may also say things that you are completely out of your control. Like maybe they'd say, she was a brunette, and that's totally what they wanted was a brunette, like things that you may or may not be able to control. So a lot of things you'll be able to apply to your competition in the upcoming pageant. The second thing is, what held her back? Oftentimes directors, year after year after year, always just wish their contestant would have just done this one thing. Like, had she just done this, she would have done so much better. If you're able to kind of get an idea of what the director feels was really holding the contestant back, you might have further insight as to what you can do to make sure you're not held back by the same thing, or you may get some insight into the director's values that may kind of put off a red flag to you of something that you may not actually want to participate in. So this is a great way to really get inside the head of a director. So what made the title holder successful and what held her back? Third question, what qualities are you seeking in a title holder? If you're able to see what qualities that they're really looking for, you'll again have an idea of where they see the pageant heading. They may say to you like, well, we're looking for somebody who is a little bit older because we want someone with lots of experience in a corporate setting or whatever, or they may say, we're really looking for some fresh new energy. So we're looking for someone young. They might not have anything to do with characteristics out of your control. It might be something that you can control. They might say, we're looking for someone with a really strong platform or somebody who is just fully confident or whatever. Just kind of helps to give you an idea. Okay. Next question. This is one that I find to be absolutely vital. Now, but it can't be asked first, but I do believe that it is vital in asking the director, how do you support your title holder throughout the year? Now, this is important to me because when I was competing, I wanted to compete in a pageant that was going to be beneficial for me, both personally and professionally. So for me, it was less about I just want to win, and it was more about how am I going to enjoy this year and how can I really grow from it. So I was looking for certain answers in this. Like I really wanted to have the support of somebody that was willing to help me grow. So I didn't want them just giving me information and sending me off on appearances. I really wanted a partner, someone that was going to be able to give me information about the insider scoop, and really show me about the history of the pageants and that type of thing. So that's what the answer I was looking for. Oftentimes, I got answers about financial support, which is excellent. They might say, well, we give a lot of sponsorships, we have a lot of sponsorships rather, and we give a lot of scholarships. So those things can be very valuable to a person. They may also say something completely different, which is, we really let the girl have her year all to herself, and we try not to bother her much. Okay, well, that's fine too if that's what you're really looking for. But if you want a really strong, solid support system, you may not necessarily get it from that type of director. Okay, and then the final question for directors is, what restrictions do you ask for? So what restrictions do you request or require of your title holder? Sometimes directors have certain restrictions, like you only are able to get wardrobe from the pageant sponsors. Or maybe a restriction that they might have is if you are dating somebody, your car can't be parked outside of their house. I know that was actually in the Miss Pennsylvania America contract when I was going through the system, in the Miss America system. And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting one. That's not one I would have really considered, but okay, fair enough. You know, it's easy enough to do. So you want to consider what restrictions they have to see how that's going to impact your life and if it's still something that you're willing to pursue. So I really recommend that you contact the director, let them know, hi, I'm really interested in your pageant. I'm excited about it. I have a few questions just to see if it would be a good fit for me. Would it be okay if I asked you 5 questions? And then there are your 5. Really get some quick answers and stuff, and then you'll be able to get kind of an intuition if it's right for you or not. Okay, 5 more questions. These are the ones that I want you to ask former title holders. In best case scenario, these title holders would have been working with the same directors because that would be ideal, really, to know how they were working with those title holders and how that director is. However, if you cannot get access to a title holder that worked with that director, like maybe it's a new director this year, or you're not able to get in touch with the last 2, and so you have to go 3 years back or whatever, try to find someone as most near in the history of time. And if you can find more than one, even better. First question I like to ask a former title holder, what was your year like? By simply leaving it open, what was your year like? Instead of was it a good year, was it a bad year? You're giving them full reign to share with you whatever comes top of mind. In human psychology, what I have found is that usually it takes people to get over the negatives in order to get to the positives from a traumatic experience, okay? So if you have a title holder that you're talking to who's had a horrific year, it's likely that she's going to attempt to say it first, maybe even politically correct. Like she might say, well, you know, it really was a tough year, but, and then share something else. Whatever she says first, that's really what you want to go after, because that's going to be the inside there is the clue as to how your year may go. What was it like? How would you have made your year better? This, I think, is excellent because hindsight is 20/20. And oftentimes when somebody has a rough year as a title holder, which believe me, I've interviewed so many title holders that I just can tell you it is not all rainbows and puppy dogs. It can be very, very difficult. You're pulled in a million different directions, and you're really trying to get a sense of pleasing people, but you're also trying to make the most of your year. So this kind of like stretch of balance. And so a lot of things can change if it's not a good fit, or if you don't have a director that's really willing to work with you, then a lot of that stuff can kind of bounce around a bit. So by asking, how would you make it better? You might get insights about things that they would have done differently, things that how they would have communicated differently, maybe something that they would have done going in their route to the national pageant. So there's lots of little tricks that you can get out of how would you make your year better. Third question for a former title holder. What was the biggest surprise that you encountered? Now, I typically ask that question third because if you ask it first, then you might get some like, oh, happy, kind of sugar-coated surprise. But usually after you get through, how would you have made your year better? Now the former contestant, the former title holder, is really like into her year. She's like really remembering her year now. So now she'll be able to think back, yeah, what was it like when I first won this title? What was I shocked by? I just think that's such a great question, and I've had a lot of really cool answers by that. What was your biggest surprise all year long? What do you wish you would have known? I think this one is so cool. What do you wish you would have known? The answers that you get for that are everything from here's what you need to do in order to prepare for your national title, or, here's how to work best with the director, or, here's a little quick tip that might be useful for you. Here's a social media thing that you need to know about. Or, there are so many different things that could come out of this question. I just think it's absolutely spectacular, and it will give you great insights to what to expect for the year, should you win. What is the most important skill to be successful in this title? Now, when I ask title holders that, and when people have asked me that, like, well, how do you win? Or what do you need to do? What do you need to know about? Oftentimes, at the end of the year, right? So you don't really typically think about this before you go to your national pageant if you're in a system that continues to grow. But after the year, when you have that reflection and you're thinking, what was the thing that really got me through this year? What was the trait? What was the quality that maybe I wished I would have had? Or the thing that I know I leaned into the entire year? If you can really think about the skill or the quality, the characteristic that would make you successful, that is spectacular, because then you can weigh against, now, is this something that I know that I have, that I can do, that I can absolutely contribute, or is this something I'm still working on and maybe this isn't a right fit? Now, I think that a lot of these questions, in fact, almost every single one of these questions, are also questions that you ought to ask before a job interview or during a job interview, before you accept a position. Because in the same way that pageants lead to that job of service throughout an entire year, a job interview, it's useful to have this information as well. I love that question in job interviews, which is, what are the skills that would make a candidate successful in this position? Because you get so much information from the person that's seeking the position, because they're able to really, narrow in on what they're looking for. And that, if you can have that, guys, it is an amazing characteristic. So you've got 10 questions to ask before you even decide to compete in a pageant. If you feel then like this pageant is a great fit for you, then that, ladies, is how you win a pageant. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.
Hey there, I'm Alycia Darby, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching that last video. If you totally loved it and got something from it, would you just click subscribe right here to subscribe to our YouTube channel? Hey, I am here for you, and I've got so many more trainings and videos for you. In fact, this one would be a really great one to watch next. Or if that topic doesn't interest you, then try this one. It's my most recent video training. So I think both of these would be really great for you. Thank you again so much for subscribing. I am honored to be your coach. I'll see you again soon.